This is going to be a very difficult video for me to make, and we'll talk about why here, but I'm going to be doing a lot of biting my tongue these next few years. What's up, everybody? D-Man back. Welcome to a brand new video, and today we're going to be doing a full breakdown of an interview that came out of this year's San Diego Comic-Con. Now, no, we didn't get any MonsterVerse stuff, no major MonsterVerse reveals, no trailer, no images from Godzilla vs. Kong. I kind of expected that. Once we didn't get images last week at G-Fest, I was like, no, we're not getting anything. It just didn't seem right. I don't know why they're not gonna, but it just doesn't seem like they will. All right, let's talk about this interview to come out of Comic-Con. This was an interview with a Toho executive, and as I said, it's going to be really hard for me to talk about anything related to anything going forward, because I'm not going to say where, when, how, or why, but I will say, because I didn't sign anything, I can legally talk about anything I want. I just choose not to as a professional courtesy. I had a meeting with Toho executives in which we discussed a lot of things, and so it's going to be difficult for me to give my opinions on things without spoiling anything, and I'm going to do my best not to do that, as I've been doing. I'm just going to keep pretending I don't know anything, and I'm going to keep going forward like that. But with this interview in particular, some of the things that I discussed with these Toho executives have been revealed now officially publicly, so I will be giving more in-depth thoughts on that because I have a little bit more insight on it. So that's what I'm going to be doing. It's going to be difficult for me to not spoil anything coming in the future that hasn't been announced yet, and I also don't want to, just because, as we'll talk about here, the things that I know may never come to be. It's just the things that they want to do at the moment. I'm going to try and do my best to break down this interview. It is a SYFY WIRE interview. I'm going to do my best to break down this interview and explain it in terms of what I know, because there's going to be people interpreting this interview in different ways. People are going to draw their own conclusions from it, and they are going to clickbait it or do whatever they want to do with it. And I'm going to do my best to explain it the way I understand it, knowing what I know. All right, this interview was done with SYFY WIRE, like I said, with Akito Takahashi. So he is one of the Toho executives. He's kind of in charge of Godzilla at the moment. He's representing Godzilla at San Diego Comic-Con, and so he is speaking on behalf of Toho Studios. When speaking about Godzilla's growing popularity, he says, "We know that Godzilla is a great character. We know that he's loved by people around the world. So can we really serve our fans and go even bigger and greater and create the Godzilla universe? And what does that look like?" Some people are going to hear that quote and automatically assume he is talking about the world of Godzilla, the one that was spoken about a little more than a year ago, the worlds of Godzilla. Remember this? This was an interview with another Toho executive, the head of Godzilla over there at Toho Studios, who was saying, "I'm interested in doing the worlds of Godzilla, a cinematic universe with Godzilla characters." A lot of people are going to think that this quote directly applies to that, but it does not. This quote is referring to Godzilla's growing popularity. When he says growing the Godzilla universe, he means growing the Godzilla brand. How are they going to grow the Godzilla brand? What does that look like? Growing the brand is different than starting the cinematic universe. There's a big difference there. Then he speaks a little bit about Toho coming out of their shell. And this is really important. I can't stress how important this is enough. This is the quote. "About 3 years ago, we started to do this Godzilla Festival, which is basically a free event in Japan where all the Godzilla fans come and unite. They have a place to converse, talk about what their favorite Godzilla is, and what they really love." So I've actually never heard of this Godzilla Festival, but I've read that it's held in November every year. I think November 3rd or 11th. I think it might be the 11th. It's the original release date of the 1954 Godzilla movie in Japan. It's also the anniversary of the Godzilla store officially opening in Shinjuku, I believe. I believe that's where it's located, in Tokyo. So the Tokyo Godzilla store, it opened on Godzilla's birthday. I wonder if that was planned or not. It was. It opened on Godzilla's birthday. This is an extension of that. So they're like, hey, we're doing this Godzilla festival now. I've never heard of it, but apparently a lot of people attend it. Something like 16,000 people? What did it say? It said a lot of people attended it. I don't know. You can check the link down below, but a lot of people attend this meeting. Now, talking about Comic-Con, he says, "Comic-Con is very famous in Japan as well. We know that." This is me breaking the quote. "We know that because we saw Tokyo Comic-Con was a big place for reveals for King of the Monsters, so we know that Japan emphasizes Comic-Con a lot, and so it has a big role there, and Godzilla's a big draw there." All right, back to the quote. "So we thought with the 50th anniversary of Comic-Con and the 65th anniversary for Godzilla, why not come here and start making that footprint into introducing or reintroducing Godzilla's universe to the world?" Again, not talking about the worlds of Godzilla. The universe of Godzilla they are speaking of is the whole franchise, the brand of Godzilla. This is what they were talking about, going bigger and greater. They are expanding the brand. I can't stress enough how important that is. Toho, a company that has in the past been very closed off to expanding and allowing usage of the character on any front. They've been very protective of Godzilla. They still are very protective of Godzilla. I know because I worked with them firsthand, so I know for a fact, having previous experience this summer working with Toho, they are very protective of Godzilla. They are very protective of this brand. And so they want to make sure that the brand is taken care of and well respected around the world. They are slowly introducing Godzilla into America because they don't have faith in us. That's the truth of it is they're worried that American fans don't truly care about Godzilla. And so it's up to us to show them we do by supporting them. That's what we got to do. We got to support Toho, help bring them out of their shell, and then we can see, again, we can see the Godzilla universe grow from that point. But that is what this is all leading to. It's a big step in the franchise for sure. They just launched their first official social media. I congratulated them. I am super excited for that. So they released their first official Godzilla social media. A Godzilla website recently opened up. It is a big deal that they are doing stuff like this. Even bringing the Godzilla store to Houston for Anime Matsuri and for the pop-up Godzilla store around the nation. That is a really big deal for Toho to be doing. They don't do that. So it's a big deal for them to be coming out of their shell and finally opening Godzilla up to the world. And it's up to us to welcome them with open arms. And I hope we do. I hope they see what we're doing, and I hope they appreciate how much we appreciate their character. It's a big deal. It's also a big deal for us YouTubers because they are slowly releasing their copyright restrictions. I mean, they're obviously not going to say, go for it, use Godzilla footage, just do whatever you want. They're never going to happen, right? That's never going to happen. That's unrealistic. We shouldn't hope for that. But that doesn't mean they are going to slightly loosen up on it. I mean, for my channel, they certainly have. But for other channels, hopefully they are slowly pulling back and allowing channels to use more footage as time goes on. Like I said, for me, they've been pretty nice to me these past few years. But I also acknowledge that they are the Thanos, and if they want, they can just snap my channel off the face of existence, and so that is a constant looming threat. All right, Toho speaks a little bit on Legendary's films. Again, this is very important, so this quote specifically. We love the Hollywood Godzilla. We think it's really an honor that they wanted to sort of remake their Hollywood version. And I mean, if he's referring to the 98 in terms of, yeah, they're remaking it, they're remaking a Hollywood Godzilla, yeah, this time I hope they think we're doing it right. I certainly do. I think these new Legendary movies are awesome, but it's a big deal that Toho is not upset with us, right? It's a big deal that they care about the MonsterVerse and that they appreciate the MonsterVerse. That's really what it is. Maybe they don't care for it, but they appreciate it. And that's important because this has relaunched Godzilla's brand. Godzilla's brand was dead for 10 years. And in 2014, Legendary Studios and Warner Brothers, they were the one who kickstarted that again. They were the one who released Godzilla 2014, which in my opinion is probably the most important Godzilla film in history since the 1954 film, because it has launched a new era of Godzilla on a scale that has never been done before. Previously, when Toho rebooted Godzilla, it was just Toho doing it. They were just self-contained. As I said, they were in their shell. In the 90s, they never came out of their shell. In the 2000s, they never came out of their shell. The only time I can think of Toho doing something out of the box of Toho, not out of the box of like, hey, we're gonna do something new with the franchise, because they've been doing that forever. The first time they've done something out of the box with the character, that was 1965 with Invasion of Astro Monster. That was the only co-produced Godzilla movie between the US and Japan, and that was Henry D. Saperstein, I believe, working with Toho Studios to create Invasion of Astro Monster, amongst other kaiju films, but that's the only Godzilla film that I believe was a co-production. That's why Nick Adams, an American star, is the star in it. They may have done some other slight things here and there, and of course, I'm not forgetting the 98 film. That is a big deal for them as well, to allow us to do that in the 90s, even though we failed them completely, but that was also a big deal. But they may have done some other tiny little co-productions. I know they had some Americans working on Shin Godzilla to help with translation, and they have had American characters in the 90s continuity, as well as in Godzilla Final Wars and some other films here and there, but that's never been a co-production the way it was with Invasion of Astro Monster. Anyways, them talking about them enjoying the Hollywood remakes for Godzilla, it's a big deal because they're warming up to the idea of coming out of their box. Toho, I love how we use that term Toho as if it wasn't Takashi, and I really hope I'm pronouncing his name right. I do believe I am. Toho commented on the future of the MonsterVerse. This is probably the biggest news to come out of this specific video. It's so different. We're going to continue that branding and that type of Godzilla universe to expand even more. I will say, I think there is a big potential that what we could see in the future is the MonsterVerse will continue. Whether that be with Godzilla or without Godzilla, that's up in the air. I would think that it'd be with Godzilla based based off this quote alone. If I'm going off this quote alone, it sounds like they want to continue Godzilla in the MonsterVerse. Them saying we're going to continue that branding, that specific branding, and that type of character universe to expand even more. Sounds like they want the MonsterVerse to expand beyond Godzilla vs. Kong. I certainly want that. I know a lot of you guys do, so I'm 100% okay with that. Here's the other big one. This is more relevant to the worlds of Godzilla. However, the Japanese Godzilla has 29 movies that have already come out. It's a very specific type of Godzilla universe, so we're probably going to see both of them sort of evolving as we go. We just love that there's two sides of Godzilla. This can be interpreted a few ways. This could be interpreted as we're taking Godzilla back and we are going to do our worlds of Godzilla. There's two sides of Godzilla. We want Godzilla, you guys head yours. It could be seen as we're going to do Godzilla the way we did it with Shin Godzilla, where you guys have your legendary movies, they come out in between the gaps, we're going to release our Godzilla movies. Or it could be seen as, yeah, we're going to do it separate, so the legendary movies, they have their run, we're going to let Godzilla develop there, then we're going to take him back at some point, we're going to do our thing with Godzilla as well, so that there will be two sides of it, just not simultaneous. Those are the possible ways I could see of interpreting that quote. It's just, we love that there's two sides of Godzilla. Sounds like they're okay with Godzilla evolving on both fronts, whether that be simultaneous or not, it's up to them. Now, this is another comment that relates mostly to the worlds of Godzilla. To be honest, it's probably going to be up to the creators and the directors. If they want to bring something back that they think is relevant to the fans and the time and the relevance of whatever we can put out there, that's going to make it very interesting. Now, this, again, it's speaking on returning overarching continuities, a cinematic universe, the building on previous stories idea. There's a lot of people that, again, interpret this quote different ways. There's some people that say, hey, they're giving directors free reign. Next director after Adam Wingard, they are going to be able to add whatever Toho monsters they want to the MonsterVerse because, as they just said, again, that's assuming that the MonsterVerse continues afterward with Godzilla or in general. Again, they said, you know, you can bring whatever characters you want. Maybe that even applies to Adam Wingard. Maybe that means, hey, he can bring, if he wants Megalon to show up, he can just shove Megalon in there. I've seen a lot of people interpret it that way. The way I interpret this is he is speaking on Toho's behalf for Toho's Godzilla, not for the legendary Godzilla. In the worlds of Godzilla, whenever we see that come to form, in whatever way it does come to form, it will be up to the directors at that moment if they want to make a cinematic universe, or if they want to do a Millennium Era anthology series, or if they want to connect to the Showa era or the Heisei era, or if they want to do whatever they want to do. They're giving their directors creative freedom. We have seen Toho already doing that within these past few years. Certainly within the Reiwai era, I always forget how to say it, the Reiwai era, something like that. Certainly within this most recent era of Godzilla movies, we have seen that for sure on Toho's side, with the anime Godzilla movies being radically different from any other previous Godzilla, as well as Shin Godzilla being radically different from anything that's come before him. So it sounds like they are just going to continue to evolve Godzilla with the directors, give the directors full creative control. That way this franchise doesn't have franchise fatigue and go stale. Now, that could mean that some directors do a cinematic universe. We could have solo movies building into one Destroy All Monsters over there at Toho. That could happen, and it could also occur where they are doing that cinematic universe, and much like what we're seeing with the DCEU, we have movies being released simultaneously outside of the continuity but featuring the same characters. That could also occur. I just think that this quote applies to Toho directors, not legendary directors. I think there's a difference. I don't think he's saying whoever wants to take on the MonsterVerse, if they want to bring Godzilla back and they want to bring in Megalon, Jet Jaguar, Mechagodzilla, Biollante, we're going to let them do it. That's not the way I interpret this quote, and I don't think that's the way the quote was meant to be interpreted. All right, now this is interesting that Toho doesn't really talk about Godzilla's expansion in terms of merchandising. They did not talk about the potential of a US-based Godzilla store opening up, or a US-based Godzilla website so we can buy the Godzilla store merchandise and ship it to the US, because currently you can't ship Godzilla store products to the United States. They did, however, comment on the recently launched website and social media accounts. I don't know why they wouldn't talk a little bit about that. They could be planning on announcing a Godzilla store here in the US. God, that'd be amazing. That could happen. I know for a fact that Toho is very pleased with the way the Godzilla store in Houston went, because it sold out instantly. That store was incredibly popular. I know for a fact they are very happy with that, and I know they are open to the idea of doing something similar to that in the future, whether it be at conventions or whether that be another pop-up Godzilla store, whatever that means. I know they are open to that idea in the future, but the way Toho does it is one brick at a time. They don't really want to just force everything and just go for it right away and say, hey, we're going to throw everything at the wall and see what sticks. They want to build over time, and I think that's a respectable approach. This is Toho on Godzilla's relevance. This is the final quote from the interview. One of the things that really works with Godzilla is his relevance in our time right now. now, and there's so many different angles to use Godzilla in such ways, whether it's visually or with new stories. Godzilla just has a lot of width in general as a character, so we're really excited to see what will come next. This is just talking about Godzilla's adaptability. You can change the message of Godzilla movies. It can be nuclear allegory, it can be environmentalism, it can be political satire, it can be whatever the message of that particular movie is. You can adapt the character in terms of, it can be Shin Godzilla, or it can be the standard Godzilla, or it can be a legendary Godzilla. You can do different things with the character. The thing that makes Godzilla fresh, the thing that makes him relevant, is the fact that he is always adapting with the times, and he does not stay in one place. He's not a stale character. Alright, so there is my breakdown for the first Toho interview. I hope I was able to share some insights, and again, I know it's kind of difficult because there's a lot that I want to talk about that I can't. And so I hope that I can provide some insight here while at the same time respecting my boundaries with Toho and not pushing anything too far. Thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed. D-Man, out.